Oh my god.
Okay, I never told you guys this before, but he will always be my boo. So, why did I decide to test his DNA? Well, I always have a feeling that Boo is not a purebred Pomeranian because some of his physical features don't exactly match the Pomeranian breed standards. For example, these are Boo's ears and these are Cece's ears. Do you see the difference? To be honest, his ears look more like Chihuahua's ears to me. And unlike Cece, where I got her from a breeder and I saw the photos of her parents and she came with a pedigree certificate which shows her family tree and that she's 100% Pomeranian and she has a champion bloodline. And to be honest, when you look at her, she just screams Pomeranian to you big time. However, for Boo, I got him from a pet store without even knowing how his parents look like. Oh well, I'm not perfect. I messed up, I know. By the way, if you're thinking of getting a dog soon, I wrote an article on how to find a good breeder, which I will put a link below so that you can avoid making the same mistakes that I did. And also, Boo had quite a few health problems, which I did share some of them in our get to know video. So yeah, I want to do a test to know if Boo is more prone to any genetic disease. So after doing quite a bit of research, I decided to go with Embark Vet because it seems to be the most well-rated DNA test company for dogs out there with seemingly the most accurate result. I will put the link of the specific testing kit I used to test Boo's DNA in the description box below, and I would appreciate it if you can use my link. So I ordered it on November 24th, and just 5 days later, I received the testing kit in my mailbox. I immediately swabbed him by gently rubbing the inside of his cheek and under his tongue to collect his saliva, and then I placed it inside the tube, tightened the cap properly, and gave it a good shake. I then put it in the prepaid envelope and mailed it back within the day. I patiently waited, and finally, 2 weeks later, I received the results. Now, are you guys ready for the result? So let's look at what they find out about his health first. So it turns out Boo inherited something I can't really pronounce, but they do a pretty good job of explaining these terms, and this basically means he's more prone to blood clotting. I'll make sure I tell this to my vet, and also I have to make sure I do my absolute best to avoid injuries for Boo. Boo also has a low baseline ALT level. This is often used as an indicator of liver health. An increase in Boo's ALT activity could be signs of liver damage, even though the blood results could show that it just falls within the normal limits because his baseline is low to start with. I find this finding extremely helpful, and I will definitely mention it to my vet. Now let's take a look at the coefficient of inbreeding, COI, which basically measures how closely related his parents are. And ideally, you want this number to be as low as possible. The study conducted by Standard of Poodles recently found that dogs with a COI of less than 6.25% live on average 4 years longer than those with COIs over 25%. Boo's COI is 5%, which is pretty good. I'm happy with that number. So now let's move on to what all of you are waiting for. After all, is Boo a purebred Pomeranian? Let's find out. Okay, so Boo is not a purebred Pomeranian. He's 77.2% Pomeranian and 11.7% Pekingese. Wow, that definitely comes as a surprise to me. Let's do a quick Google search. Alright, now that I saw it, I can't unsee it anymore. I see a lot of resemblance between Boo's eyes and Pekingese, as both of them have big bulging eyes.
Oh my god.
Okay, I never told you guys this before, but I will today. So 2 years ago, Boo suffered from ocular proptosis, in which his eyeball literally popped out of his eye socket. This is a pretty common eye problem in breeds with big bulging eyes such as Pugs, French Bulldogs, Pekingese, and Chihuahua. And it usually happens when there's too much eye pressure, usually due to a trauma. For Boo, it was because he got beaten by another dog on top of his head, and he got so traumatized that his eyes just popped out. It happened when he was still living with our parents in Vietnam. They immediately rushed him to a vet, and it took him about a month for his eyes to properly heal. When I told you guys Boo has been through a lot, I really meant it. So I'm super grateful that he's living his best life, all healthy and happy. Okay, so now you are probably asking, what about the other 11%? According to the DNA result, the other 11% belongs to an ancestor that is a mixed breed themselves. The likely breeds are Chihuahua, American Eskimo dog, and Poodle. Alright, so my guess wasn't too far off. He probably has a little bit of Chihuahua in him. Let's do a quick Google search of American Eskimo dog. Wow, okay, I can see the possibility of that, but I'm still quite surprised American Eskimo dog isn't a popular breed where we came from. Also, I'm really hoping they weren't breeding American Eskimo with Chihuahua, because I'm actually pretty against breeding small dogs with much bigger dogs, especially when the male is the bigger one, because there's a much higher probability that the female would need a painful C-section with much more possible birth complications if that's the case. So let's look at his family tree. Okay, so one of his parents is a purebred Pomeranian, while the other one is a Pomeranian mixed with one of his parents being a Pekingese mix. I'm always a bit skeptical when I see they breed Pomeranian with a short snout breed, especially if the intention wasn't to create a hybrid mix, but to mislead the buyers into thinking it's a pure Pomeranian with a short snout. People usually prefer shorter snout Pomeranian just because it's cuter. There are two things you need to keep in mind. First, they might not be a purebred Pomeranian, as you can see in my own example. And second, while shorter snout dogs do look cuter, they come with health consequences. And the conditions usually get much more serious if the dog is overweight. So if you have a Pomeranian with his snout on the shorter side, it's especially important to closely monitor his weight to avoid obesity. Let's click on dogs like mine. Wow, okay, this one looks a lot like Boo. Let's look at his haplotype. Okay, I'm not quite sure what all of this means, but I just find this extremely funny. For most of dog history, this haplogroup was probably quite rare. Despite being rare, many of the most imposing dogs on earth have it. Strangely, so do many Pomeranians. Perhaps this explains why some Poms are so tough, acting like they are 10 times their actual size. So let's quickly look at trait. Boo's predicted adult weight is 9 pounds, which is roughly 4 kilograms. This is definitely interesting to know, as Pomeranians' weight usually range from 3 to 7 pounds. But I guess since he does have a little bit of Pekingese in him, he would naturally weigh slightly more than a standard purebred Pomeranian. So let's see if he has any relatives in the US, despite his upbringing in Thailand and Vietnam. Interesting, he does have some cousins here. I would definitely try reaching out to some of them and schedule a playdate then. Alright, so to sum up, I definitely feel like I got my money's worth with this DNA kit. It helps me to gain a better understanding of Boo's breeds and finally give me clarity after all these years. This also provided me with some helpful insights about his health. So I highly recommend you giving it a try if you have any doubt about your dog's breed. And I put a link to the DNA test kit I used below, and I would appreciate it if you can use my link. Watch these videos next to learn more about our Pomeranians. Well, Boo is not 100% Pomeranian, but he will always be my Boo, and he's 100% Boo.